Know that there is a path to immigrate legally to the United States without investing millions of dollars, waiting for a job offer, or having American relatives? The United States seeks qualified immigrants who contribute to the nation. Highly skilled professionals and entrepreneurs are in high demand, and the EB-2 NIW is proof of that. To qualify, you need to have an advanced degree or a bachelor's degree and at least 5 years of professional experience, or demonstrate that you possess exceptional abilities. You also need to outline your future plans to continue your professional growth on American soil. You can go through the entire process without leaving your home country and enter the United States with your green card approved as an exceptional professional. Open yourself to a world of possibilities. Contact Murtaz Law today.
Hello, everyone. So welcome. It's a pleasure to have you all here. My name is Roberta Diaz. I have been working with Dr. Murtaz for a few years now at Murtaz Law. So I'm part of the sales team with him. So Dr. Murtaz is a licensed lawyer in the US, and we are here tonight to help you to understand a little bit more about the green card process and also to talk about a few myths. So feel free to ask any questions at the end if you need it. So Dr. Murtaz, all yours.
All right. So we're going to talk about some myths today, as Roberta mentioned, and we're going to kind of do this in a conversational manner versus me sit here and talk to you guys for 30 minutes about, what I think. So the first category that we're going to talk about is the marriage-based category. And if you marry a U.S. citizen, that you're automatically guaranteed a green card. Look, that is a path that you can take, but it is not guaranteed. Especially right now under this administration, you have to be very diligent with what you're doing and how you do it. So, one of the things that I found is, there's three things that you need. You need quality of evidence, you need quantity of evidence, and you need consistency with your evidence in order to show that, one, your marriage is valid, but also that, you have a sufficient enough paper trail and a sufficient enough amount of evidence to show that, hey, you know what, we are actually getting married and it's for the right reasons and it's not just for a green card. And I know Roberta and I have dealt with this a number of times where people will come to us and they'll have, 2-3 months in a relationship. And so, from there, I know, Roberta, feel free to chime in. We generally tell them you need to have a longer relationship. If you want someone to believe that your marriage is valid, have enough of a relationship to show that, hey, we've been together long enough to have this be something that we're taking seriously and we're putting into spending the rest of our lives together. We're merging our lives together, whether it's financially, meeting each other's families, hanging out with each other's friends, and things along those lines. All right, Roberta, you want to read this one?
Yeah. So you need
go back, guys. There you go.
So you need to have a job offer, be a millionaire investor, or have all awards publications to qualify for a green card. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Now, we know that these categories also exist. So with a job offer, you can have an EB-2 and EB-3. You have a sponsored visa. You go through a labor certification process, all of that. If you're a millionaire investor, congratulations. That must be lovely way to live. But there are visas where you can essentially buy a green card by investing enough capital in certain areas of the United States in various different projects, or create your own. And then also the awards and publication side. Look, we have some clients who are very, very high level scientists, researchers, professional athletes, Olympic athletes, world champions. There's ways to do it with that, but those are not the only ways. There's a very specific category called the EB-2 NIW, which stands for National Interest Waiver. And you can get a green card if you're qualified. There's various qualification levels You have to have a bachelor of 5 years experience, an advanced degree, or you have to prove exceptional ability, which is a combination of having work experience, degrees, certifications, memberships in associations, a high salary, things along those lines. So those are available. And look, we work heavily in this field, and we do it with nurses, engineers, entrepreneurs, healthcare workers, and especially tech right now, because there's a extreme shortage of highly qualified tech professionals. And I know Robert and I have been talking to a number of extremely highly qualified tech professionals in the last couple of days. And, you know, it's funny. The talent pool around the world is really, really high, especially with some countries having certain, you know, categories that are beyond, you know, what we have in the US. I'll give you some examples, like the cybersecurity in Brazil is insane. The mining operations in Peru are next level. If you go to the Middle East, you know, especially like UAE, you'll have bankers and finance professionals that are, you know, world class. Same thing in Hong Kong. And so you'll have these professionals all over the world that are very highly qualified. But the key here is that you have to show the value that you can bring to the country. So you need to have a team that understands, look, both that we are qualified to apply for the position, but also here's the project or the plan of what I'm going to do in the US, whether it's the business plan or professional plan. Here are the economic, social value. Here is the government issue that it solves. Here are the implications in the field. Here is why I'm qualified. And that's why we should waive the need for a job offer and a labor certification in this type of application, because it'll benefit the US, and the return on that has to be higher for the US than it is for the person applying. Roberto, do you want to add anything on that one?
Oh, that's all. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the green card process is extremely long. So
let's talk about this one. There's different categories for green card processes. I mean, that's a very broad category. You have family-based, you have, you know, humanitarian-based, you have employment-based, and you have different categories within each one. So let me start off by talking about the family-based. So you have, you know, immediate relatives of U.S. citizens, like wife, husband, or children under 21. You have the children over 21. You have married and unmarried children over 21. You have brothers and sisters of U.S. citizens. But then also for green card holders, you have wife or husband, spouse, and children under 21, or children, unmarried children over 21. And so these are all separate categories, and the visa bulletin moves every month, and it tells you kind of how long you have to wait. Now, generally, U.S. citizens who have parents or immediate family members that are spouse or children have categories where they don't have to wait. There's always visas available for them. But it's based on an allocation on different categories for different visa types. Now, for green card holders, that fluctuates. Sometimes you can apply right away, and sometimes there's a little bit of a delay period. And the difference is that with some things, you can adjust status from inside the country while you apply, and for others, you have to wait, file a petition, and then come back and apply for your adjustment of status or your consular process and get your green card overseas. Now, that's the family side. All right. So, Roberta, which one do you think we should talk about as far as the employment-based side right now?
EB-2NIW for sure.
Shocking. I didn't know you were going to go in that direction or not. I'm glad you did. But so we'll talk a little about the EB-2NIW. Look, the timeframes have moved significantly in the last 3 months on the visa bulletin. So if you are in the US, you can adjust status currently while you apply. Now, the timeframes are longer for the petition to be approved, but these visa categories, they have visas currently available. It's a matter of executing the right way and making sure that you're not going to cause unnecessary delays by having incorrect documentation, incorrect arguments, you know, not filling out your forms the right way, not sending it to the right place, and not having consistency. I will say this openly. The most important thing you can do with your application is consistency. If you have differing points of the same question and different answers for the same question, different parts of your application, it's not going to help you. You have to be consistent in what you do. And your information has to always be consistent, and it should be, because you should always tell the truth. So if you're telling the truth, there should be no discrepancy in your application, and small errors can lead to tremendous delays and unbelievable costs in trying to fix it. But here's the thing. The time frames can be shorter or longer, but every month you wait, it's going to be longer. And if you're serious about doing this, really talk to a qualified professional, find out what it's going to take, not just to submit a case, but to submit a case that maximizes your probability of success and will ultimately eliminate both time and cost of doing it wrong.
Sooner it starts, sooner you get it. Get
Exactly.
a green card.
So when you send it, that'll start your clock. But understand that it takes time to build an effective case, and you want to make sure you do it right, because building it a second or a third time is going to take a lot longer than doing it right the first time.
Next. So the US does not need immigrants.
All right. So I've had to say this many times in the last, I would say, 15 to 16 months, as the current administration has come in, and obviously most of you have watched the news and probably have a pretty good idea of some of the policies that have been put in place in this country. And, this myth is beyond false. The US economy functions on immigrants. I mean, I'm an immigrant. Berta is an immigrant. A lot of other people are immigrants, and we all, pull our weight, and we do what we have to do to make our country better. So regardless of what you hear, understand that immigration is not just something that we want in this country, but it's a necessity for us to survive. Now, what I can say on this topic, especially considering what's happening within this administration, is if you are an immigrant who's doing things the right way and you're applying properly, you're waiting your turn in line, you're giving them the requisite evidence, nothing has changed. There's a little bit more scrutiny on these cases because they want to eliminate fraud, and we'll get to that in a second. But nothing has changed. We still need and value very high-end professionals, because the sad reality is the US does not have professionals in certain areas, and we are struggling with that. For all the temporary visas that you see, people to come and work here, they are not getting those visas because we have enough qualified professionals in those areas. It's a lot cheaper and a lot less risk for companies to just hire someone inside the US. But since those people are not available, and we just don't have the supply that we need, we look outside the US. And, as we've looked into different countries and, different professions, the quality of the global talent is staggering. For every person that's watching this, you're thinking about coming here, and you're thinking about, immigration. So I will tell you this, wherever you are in the world, the opportunity levels in this country are like nothing you've seen before. You can basically do whatever you want if you work hard enough. And, I will say that as an immigrant myself, that, if you want it badly enough and you're willing to work for it here, it's limitless what you can do. But, you have to work for it, but also, it's the country understands that. And whatever the rhetoric is on television or on Instagram or from certain levels of government, the reality, the economic reality of what we need in this country is the reality. And so if you are a highly qualified professional, please, think about the US as a destination. If you have a family member in the US and you want to come and join your family, Americans have the right to be with their family. That's an absolute right that we have as Americans. And if you're thinking about another way, whether it's to study, if it's coming to do other things, or even to visit, we want the tourism money. We want people to come visit the US. Don't believe what a small percentage of the population says. Look at Americans overall. And I promise you, Americans are a welcoming, good group of people. So if you are thinking about coming to the US, please think about it. I mean, you want to come here, but we also need you.
And the last one, I do not need a lawyer to apply for my green card.
Again,
Yeah.
you don't need a lawyer to apply. I mean, but if you want to maximize your chances of winning and not create problems for the rest of your life, I would recommend having someone who's highly qualified, who's an American lawyer, who actually knows what they're doing, because every case is different. Every visa category is different. Every country of birth is different, and everyone's immigration history is different. You make one mistake, and they look at that as misrepresentation or fraud, they can ban you for life. You do not need that. Or if you have to fix something, it will cost you more money. But here's the thing. It's also just a logic pattern. If you have a dental problem, don't do dental surgery on yourself. Go to a qualified dentist and have them do it. This is no different. If it's your first time applying for a green card, EB2 NIW, an EB1A, EB3, or a family-based, why would you risk the most important thing that you'll ever do in your life, hoping that you'll figure it out? Do what you have to do to make sure that that process is done flawlessly, and work with a qualified professional who's American, who understands how the people who are going to read your case think, who speaks English fluently and writes English fluently, and not only understands the language, but understands the culture and how to approach Americans or write for Americans, depending on kind of the visa type of whether you need an argument or whether you need evidence, so on and so forth, and make sure you do it right the first time. If you do it wrong the first time, it will be much more expensive, a much longer process, and you're going to create unnecessary problems. Hire a qualified professional and do it right the first time. Because if you do, your odds of success are very good. And if you don't, they're not. We have a very high rate of success, but that's not because I'm an American lawyer. It's because I'm an American lawyer that does things the right way. And that's what's important. Don't cut corners. Don't believe people that promise you things that are not real. Talk to a qualified, licensed American lawyer and find out what your realistic options are. And from there, make a strategic decision on what's best for you and your family's future.
Thank you, Mortais. So do not let a myth decide your future. So
no, don't. All five of these are absurdities. You don't want to think that, one size fits all here. Every immigration case is completely different from another. While some things may overlap, someone who's a civil engineer and someone who is a, professional soccer player are not going to have the same case. So, what works for someone else or what you heard from a friend may not apply from you. But what you have may seem impossible, but if it's with the right guidance and the right strategy and the right execution, strategy alone won't get you there. That impossible dream may be within reason. You just may not know that path is available. So what I would tell all of you is this: look, talk to a qualified professional before you make any decisions. What you hear on Instagram, what you hear on, TV, what you hear from friends and family who have no legal experience and have never actually applied for a case because they heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend. Don't base your life's decisions or the opportunities that are in front of you on that. Talk to a qualified professional, get the real information, and then from there, make a decision that's going to be best for you and your family. And whatever that is, really try and make an informed decision as opposed to one that's more of an impulse. What I would tell you is this: if you are interested in having us evaluate your situation, please scan the QR code here, send your CV, and if you're a different visa category, like you're going to get married to an American, etc., we'll check your eligibility if you're looking for a visa category. But if you have a potential sponsor, or you have a potential spouse, or a parent, etc., send us your information. We'll take a look at it, and Roberta can chime in on this, but I tell people no all the time. If you're not qualified, you're not qualified. But the goal here is to win your case. So if you want to win your case, first things first, do your due diligence, do your homework, and make sure that you have all the relevant information to make an intelligent decision.
Awesome. Thank you, Murtaz. We already have some questions here. So guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to write them, send them. We have two here already, Murtaz. So can you tell me if there is any updates on the perm list, considering that the Department of Labor is quite delayed? We have an EB3 process.
I mean, yeah, look, they're going a little bit faster than they were before. But, as far as an update, look, it really depends on the person that gets your perm application. Like when you send your 908, sorry, I was using the form number. When you send your labor certification in, it goes to the Department of Labor. And then the Department of Labor adjudicates that based on number of criteria and, whether you fit the category, so on and so forth. What you have to think about, though, is that the volume of applications goes up and the visa allocation is the same. So if that happens, yes, you're going to have a longer time frame. But what's nice is right now, the EB3 process is moving faster as far as their final action date, and the dates of filing for people who are in the US and want to apply right away for adjustment of status is current. So you can actually do that when you apply for your I-140 together in a concurrent filing.
Thank you. Do applicants really need publications or a PhD to have a strong EB2 and AW case?
No, again, I think that in this context, you're confusing the EB2 and IW with the EB1A. And so for EB1A, yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be a PhD in publication, but there's 10 criteria that you can look to use, and you have to fit at least 3 of the criteria and then bring that extraordinary ability to the US to continue your work at that extraordinary level. Now, for an EB2 and IW, you want to have either a bachelor degree in 5 years of post-bachelor progressive experience, a advanced degree, which is a master's degree or higher by US standards, or exceptional ability. And this is very common within the tech industry, where people are self-taught. And so they'll have, like an associate's level degree, and then, 500 certifications, 25 years experience, and they've basically been self-taught. And we're able to do it that way too. But again, each case is a unique case, and we have to analyze your CV on a case-by-case basis for us to understand whether or not you're eligible, and not just eligible, but whether it's a high win probability case or if it's more of a coin toss. And if it's more of a coin toss, likely I'll tell you to go get more experience or more education, et cetera, so that you can, strengthen your profile and make an application that has a much higher probability to win.
So how important is proving national interest compared to having an impressive resume in an EB2 and AW petition?
Well, it's very important. It's called a national interest waiver. So, I mean, obviously you have to prove the national interest, but, you also have to be qualified to do what you say you're going to do. So they're equally important. Prong 1 of the 3-prong test is the substantial merit and the national interest. But then prong 2 is also that you're well positioned to advance the proposed endeavor that you have in front of you. So with that in mind, if you don't prove the national interest, that's a problem. And that's usually what I do. You have to base it not just on the legal side, but you need to prove economic and social value. You need to prove broader implications in the field. Job creation is always a plus. And then also, you need to show that what you're going to resolve with what you're going to do in this country is the subject of government initiatives or government policies where they're spending, tens of billions of dollars, and that you can come here and help alleviate a problem. That's great for tech people, especially right now, the cybersecurity and AI side. I mean, we need those people more than we probably ever needed them. So, that is really important. But here's the thing, whatever your project that you say you're going to do in the US is, it needs to fall in line with what your professional history has been. So, if you've been in the supply chain sector for 25 years, and you come here and you say, I'm going to be a physical therapist, that's probably not going to work. You come here and you work in the logistics supply chain side. Yeah, there's a high demand for those professionals right now, but you got to show that, hey, look, I'm going to bring all this value, all this training for the shortage, but I'm also going to, let's say, create a consultancy where I can build all these jobs out for Americans. I'm not going to take a job from an American. And here are the impacts that all my work is going to have economically, socially, policy-wise, and in the field over the next 5 years. And if you do that the right way, your probability of success is good. If you just focus on your credentials, it won't be enough.
Can you please say something about opportunities for pilots?
So, as you are probably aware, we have a shortage of qualified commercial pilots in the U.S., and it's staggering. It's become a real problem, but it's not just pilots. The FAA is understaffed with, every possible position that you can imagine right now, including flight, what do they call them? Flight coordinators, air traffic controller, sorry. Everyone you can imagine, but for pilots in particular, we have a shortage. And, if you have the relevant experience and education and you fit the categories, it's a great time to apply because, again, the demand is very high. And unfortunately, supply of qualified pilots is very low. So if you have enough hours logged, you have some education, and you fit some of the other categories, maybe for exceptional ability, or you have a bachelor in at least 5 years of experience, or higher, a master's degree, an MBA, something along those lines, then yeah, it's a great time to apply right now. But again, regardless of the situation, each pilot is also different from other pilots. Different aircraft, different time flying, different routes. They're different. There's also helicopter pilots. There's different types of pilots as well. So you really have to look at the profile of each individual, and I make the assessment to figure out whether or not it's going to be a good case, that it's a high win probability, and looking ahead, what is the strategy that we would use based on this profile? And then once we have that strategy, start collecting data and executing the right way. So that way, when we do have to write the model, or we do have to write the argument, we have sufficient amount of evidence to back up everything that we say.
Okay, so the last one for now, can I lose my green card?
Well, it depends what you do. If you lie to get your green card, of course, they can take it away from you. If you, have a green card and you kill somebody, it's probably not going to help. They can take that away from you as well. But also, if you stay out of the country for over a year in a row and you don't get a reentry permit and you don't apply or keep any connections to this country, and there's ways around it, and we've done it before, but can they see that as abandoning your green card? Yes, they can. So yes, you can lose your green card. Once you're a citizen, no, unless you acquired it by fraud, you won't lose your citizenship. But green card, it's a permanent residency. It's not a citizenship. So you have to maintain your status as a permanent resident. And what that means is don't do anything that you wouldn't do anyway. Wherever you're from, you're probably not gonna traffic drugs or kill somebody, etc. So don't do that here. Don't drive drunk. Don't leave the country and don't not come back for 5 years. Don't lie on any of the applications that or the application that you use to get your green card. Tell the truth. Do everything the right way. America wants you here. Here's the thing, though. They want people who respect us and respect our country and our laws. And so if you want to do it the right way, do it the right way. And if you do it the right way, your odds of success, if you do it with a qualified professional the right way, are good. And if you try to cut corners or you do things where you shouldn't be doing, yeah, you're gonna struggle. And if you do things outside of that, and you actively take the risk that you could lose your green card, can they take it from you? Yes. Are they going to? Very unlikely, but it can happen.
Thank you.
Roberta,
That's all, I guess.
anything else you want to ask me, or you want me to address before we sign off?
Sorry, Matthias, I don't see any more questions.
But is there anything you want me to address before we sign off? Anything
No, that's it.
from your calls this week or anything like
For
that?
me, it's great. For me, it's great.
Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, I want to thank everyone for coming and listening to us and asking the questions. Hopefully this was helpful to all of you. Look, I know immigration can be a very tricky subject and there's a lot of misinformation out there. So look, be careful, do your homework, talk to qualified professionals, and do the things the right way. This is an amazing opportunity for people that are qualified. And if you are interested, please scan the code, send us your information, and one of us will reach out and then set a call with you. Thank you all for watching. Have a great night.
Know that there is a path to immigrate legally to the United States without investing millions of dollars, waiting for a job offer, or having American relatives. The United States seeks qualified immigrants who contribute to the nation. Highly skilled professionals and entrepreneurs are in high demand, and the EB-2 NIW is proof of that. To qualify, you need to have an advanced degree or a bachelor's degree and at least 5 years of professional experience, or demonstrate that you possess exceptional abilities. You also need to outline your future plans to continue your professional growth on American soil. You can go through the entire process without leaving your home country and enter the United States with your green card approved as an exceptional professional. Open yourself to a world of possibilities. Contact Murtaz Law today.